Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Moving Forward Talk with Diana. This platform is open to discuss various topics with the goal to motivate others to shape their future without limitation. This week, joining me, I have Miss Britannia Graham. Hey, Miss Britannia, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm not having such a great day today. Have problems with electronics and I have technical problems, but we're still going to do this video because
We're going to move beyond.
Right. We are hoping that someone will see this video and actually not just listen, but apply what you have to say about self-love. And I think this is an awesome topic, self-love.
Mm-hmm.
So, Britannia, before we continue, I always like to ask everyone to give us a little bit of their background history because I want our audience to know that the Britannia who's speaking today may not have been in the same place a few years ago.
That's right.
Since you're very young, you may not have been in the same place at least 10 years ago.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So share with us your background.
Okay, so I was born in St. Catherine, Jamaica. I am Jamaican. I moved to the United States 5 years ago. Wow.
Wow.
I moved to the United States 5 years ago. I am 19 tomorrow.
Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm currently in nursing school. And as you said, the Britannia, a couple months ago is not the person I am today. I'm consistently on a journey of becoming something more, becoming a better Britannia. And I'm evolving, I'm growing, and I'm embracing my growth. So.
Excellent. And today, Britannia is going to share with us her concept of self-love and how having that self-love or how loving ourselves can shape us into a more positive person. We see ourselves different when we love ourselves. And I just wanted to mention that when we have this self-love, we are compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very important key to our mental health and well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping our depression and anxiety at a level so low,
Mm-hmm.
it don't even exist.
That's right.
So, Britannia, what do you have to teach us today about self-love?
Okay, so the first thing that I think I want to say is that self-love, it's a constant thing. And I think like everything in life, it's something that you have to work on. I don't think anyone really is at their final peak of loving themselves, because every day we find new things about ourselves, and it's a choice that we literally have to make every day. In our generation today, we see a lot of people who they're searching for so many things, and they're searching for love in all the wrong places, but it's very imperative for you to learn to start with you. And one of the Bible says that in order for us to love others, then we first have to love ourselves. And I think we're trying to prove our love for people and prove our love for our brothers and our sisters and our husbands and our wives and our friends. But if you're not first content with who you are, if I'm not content with who Britannia is, and if you're not content with who Diana is, then it can't work. And I can't love you, Miss Diana, if I don't first love Britannia. And I think that's something that we really have to work on, and we really have to be intentional about working on, because we see all these models and we see all these different things on social medias, and our minds are bombarded with all these different things, and we want to be like this person, we want to do this and we want to do that, but we're not content. When I look in the mirror, I have to be content with what I see. And if you're not content with what you see, then you need to be intentional about working on the person that you want to become. Michelle Obama, one of my favorite books, she wrote this book about becoming, and becoming is this, it's not a final thing. It's a state of continuation, and you're every day you're growing and you're evolving, and you're learning about self-actualization and self-love, and you're learning about who you are. Because in order for you to love yourself, you first have to find out, who am I loving? Who am I? And if the person that you've discovered is not a person that you're content with, then change it. And that, I think that's, and I think that's one of the things that we don't really talk about, because we talk about loving ourselves. But what if you're not the type of person that, you know, that you want to love? What if you're mean? What if you are judgmental? Change those things. Be intentional about changing those things. And I think that's one of the things that we really need to learn as a human race, basically. And so you can't love others if you don't first love yourself. And I think sometimes self-love includes so many different things. Self-love includes setting boundaries for yourself, setting boundaries for others around you. Boundaries are not my way of keeping others out, but they're the path for letting what I want in. And sometimes as human beings, you have to set boundaries for how you want people to treat you. You have to set boundaries for how you want to be treated, because we have these people coming into our lives and they're telling us stuff and they're treating us in manners that we don't want to be treated. So it's very imperative for you to set boundaries. Hey, you're not going to talk to me in that way, because that's not how I talk to myself. You're not going to speak to me in that tone of voice. You're going to watch your tone when you speak to me, because this is not how I want to be spoken to. And when I look in the mirror, this is not how I speak to Britannia. Hence, Tom is not going to speak to me in that way, or Ryan or Brian or whoever, Alicia, she's not going to speak to me in that way, because that's not how I want to be treated. That's not how I speak to myself. So I think self-love, it's in correlation with how you speak to yourself, how you see yourself, how you view yourself. And how you view yourself is a direct way of how people view you and how people see you and how people are going to treat you. Because if I treat myself less than who I am, then I cannot hold you at a standard to treat me any better, because I'm not doing it for myself. So self-love includes setting boundaries and setting up walls. Sometimes we think that we have to be at a particular place all the time and we have to answer every phone call. No, you don't. You do not have, listen, if you are in a state this morning, as you said, this morning you woke up and you weren't feeling the best. I wasn't feeling the best this morning. I woke up either. If you wake up and you turn over and you see that FaceTime, you don't have to answer. You don't have to answer. It's okay to click the button, the red button, and say, is it okay if I call you later? It's okay to send that custom message and say, I'm busy. Self-love includes saying sometimes no. It's okay to say no. And that's something that I had to learn over a period of time, that I don't have to answer yes to everyone. And sometimes my answer is I'm busy. And sometimes I don't have to explain why I'm busy. I'm busy. Yeah, I'm busy. I'm busy going to the movies. I'm busy taking care of myself. I'm busy combing my hair. I'm busy watching a stupid show on Netflix. It's okay to sit alone. Sometimes self-love includes self-isolation. Sometimes self-love includes self-separation. Sometimes self-love includes sitting alone at a yogurt place and just eating by yourself, and that's okay. And I think we have a misconception that we have to answer to everyone and we have to live up to expectations of everyone, and that's not what self-love is. Self-love includes you first God, but second, you being content with who you are. And then after that, you're independent of the good or bad opinions of others. You get what I'm saying? You don't have to live up to the expectation of anyone but God and yourself. Set standards for yourself, live up to those standards, but you don't have to live up to the expectation of anyone but yourself. Because sometimes go ahead.
I was going to say, absolutely, because self-love means you're being true to your own values and your own standards. And you spoke on that. Sometimes we try to please everybody else. We live up to everybody else's standard and values, but what happened to ours? And when we love ourselves, we can be true to ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely, definitely. Yeah.
And I was thinking, you know, the saying, hurt people hurt others.
Yep.
So when we think
Yep.
about self-love, when we think about self-love, we're happy with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We treat ourselves the way we would actually also treat others, because if we're
Mm-hmm.
happy with ourselves, then we can examine how we're treating others. But when we are not happy, because if we don't love ourselves, there's no way we can be happy. And when we're
Definitely.
not happy, that is the energy we give to the next person.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes we see people walking around and they're treating us in a certain way, and they're speaking to us in a certain tone of voice,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't really understand that, yeah, they're not content
They're
with
not.
who they are. That's why they're projecting this energy on me, because they don't love themselves. Because as I said before, if you don't love yourself, you cannot love anyone else. It's not possible
It's
for you to
not.
love everyone else. Mm-hmm.
And now
It's
that you
really,
have explained what self-love means to you, what are some of the factors that contributes to the lack of self-love?
I think a lot of people have a general misconception that just because you're struggling, you can be struggling and becoming at the same time.
Right.
And a lot of people get stuck in their pain and their hurt, and they never really get to move past that, move beyond that. You know, they never really, they don't learn how to deal with the mess that they're in right now. And so what happens is I was talking to someone about this the other day, and I was saying, if you don't deal with the things that are going on when you're 20, when you're 25, you're going to be dealing what you should have dealt with at 20 and
Right.
dealing with what you're dealing with at 25. So it's important to deal with the things that you're going through in the season, in the season that you're in, right? And whatever you're fix it now, so you don't have to fix it later. And I think what happens is, for us, the reason sometimes we're not in love with ourselves, or not even in love with ourselves, because that's a different thing, but
Yeah.
we don't love ourselves, is simply because we have so many things coming at us, so many things from our past, so many mistakes, and so many things we've been through. Sometimes we compare ourselves, and I am so baffled sometimes at the people that we're comparing ourselves to, and the people that we hold at these high standards. And if we were to ever listen, we see their big house, but we don't realize that their house is messy. You know, we look at the facade that they put on sometimes, and we don't understand that, hey, she comes and she's so jolly and she's laughing, but her life's a mess. You know,
Right.
she's not telling us that. And so we're comparing ourselves with the picture that people give to us. And we don't understand that that's not who they are. That's not the core of who they are. So I think sometimes something that makes us not love ourselves is because we're in comparison to others who probably don't even love themselves. So it's very important for us to understand that each person, every human being, we're on a journey with ourselves. We're on a journey of becoming another version of ourselves. And if you consistently compare, if I consistently compare myself to you, then I will never embrace my personal journey and my journey that I'm on. So I think it's very important for us to love our process, fall in love with your process. Because if I compare my process to your process, then I'll never reach where I'm going, or I'll never reach my destination, my unique destination.
Especially if the other person reached their destination before you do. That is
Yes.
where we compare, and that is where sometimes we question, why am I not there yet?
Yes.
And then that leads to what? The giving up, the concept of giving up. I have tried and I have tried and I have tried. And when you sit back and you look around and everybody is achieving and I'm still trying.
Mm-hmm.
And when we don't love ourselves and we don't love the process and we don't embrace it, that can hold us back.
Can I just say this, because we're kind of a different generation, and so I think that one of the things for my generation, or just people in general, is that we be honest with the people that are in our lives. You have reached, a certain destination, because I feel like there are different destinations in life for everyone. So you've reached a certain destination, or I've reached a certain destination. The person who is looking up to me and looking at my growth and looking at my personal development, I think it's very important for me to be honest with that person and say,
Right.
hey, it's going to take some sweat and tears to reach where I'm at. Don't just look at the destination, but or just don't tell people of the testimony. Just don't tell people of where you are right now, or the position
Mhm.
where you are right now, but tell them about the process. Tell them about the roads and the twists and turns that you had to take. I'm not saying that to tell people all of your business, but at the
Right.
same time, be honest with people who are looking up with you and tell them that, hey, I wasn't born here. I had to work to get here. And
Right.
I made some mistakes on my journey here. I took a lot of detours in order to get here. Be honest with people, because people are looking for someone to look up to. And if you find that person who is looking up to you, then I think it's very important to be honest with them. Tell them the truth.
We have to be
Don't
transparent.
be transparent. Don't just let them look at your glory and look at what the nice car that you have now, and tell them about the times that you used to have to walk to get to your destination.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And good you brought that up. Let me share an example of that. I would have folks, I'm trying to mentor some of our young ladies
Mm-hmm.
and even older ladies. And the first thing they'll say, how did you get to the point? How did you get your PhD, Miss Diane? I want to get a PhD. I never ever started out a conversation talking about how I earned a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
I start from the 6 years it took me to earn my AA. And don't laugh.
Oh, no, no. I know you have told me that story, which I think is actually powerful, but you
Yes.
go ahead.
And sometimes I go all the way back to completing 8th grade and not enrolling in school again until when I migrated here. So completing 8th grade, I was about maybe 14 probably, and I migrated here almost my 18th birthday. So I never start because I don't want them to get the picture. Oh, so I took this time to get my PhD, and this was the road, this was the process. No, let's go back to how I came to the PhD journey. I don't want to leave that off because I don't want them to say, okay, well, I'm never going to get to the PhD journey because here I am. I'm already 3 years in my AA, degree seeking, and I should have been completed in 2 years. I'm at my third year, so there's no way. No, I want to let them know it is possible. It took me 6 years to earn
Yeah.
my AA, and it's just determination
Yeah.
and
Yes. Be honest.
resilience. Mhm. So
I
you
agree.
have to be transparent. We can't
Absolutely.
expect to motivate others without being transparent.
Sometimes you got to get, because I think that example is even more powerful, because it's hard to look at a PhD when you're stuck in the AA, right? And
Very.
so
Mhm.
before you even disclose the fact that, hey, I even have, I even got to the PhD, let me tell you about how it took me 6 years. You're in your third year. You're actually at an advantage,
Right.
than I was. So I think it's, and for us as the younger generation, when we hear that and when we see that, and when we just don't see the beautiful picture that a lot of people, when we see the puzzle pieces that goes to the entire picture, we feel so much better. We feel like there's hope. And I think that's why a lot of people lack, going back to self-love, is because there's a lack of hope, and we are looking at final pictures and not looking at the pieces that were put together for the picture. So I think that's very powerful, that you're not only telling them that, hey, I have this PhD degree, which Congratulations, by the
Thank
way.
you.
But you're also telling them about the journey that you had to go on, the long and hauling journey that you had to go on to get to that destination. And I think for young girls, and not only young girls, but just young people in general, you know what, just people in general, because I know that there are a lot of people even on your level that are still looking to you for advice and stuff. So I think it's very important for us to understand that those around us, we don't only want to show them the perfect picture, you know, but tell them about how hard it was, and how even though you're struggling, and even though you're going through this right now, it's important not to give up. Because one of my favorite quotes, it says, defeat is not when you fall, but a refusal to get back up. And a lot of people, they get stuck on the falling and never remember that, hey, that's not your destination. You still got to get up. You still got to brush yourself off, and you still got to keep going. And we're stuck in the image of us falling, because someone keeps replaying that picture in our head. Someone keeps whispering, oh, hey, remember when you fell? Hey, remember when you had all that dirt on your clothes? Remember when you were face flat down on the floor? And that picture keeps coming back in our heads over and over. And that's the picture that we start creating for ourselves. And we never remember that, hey, it's okay to get back up. It's okay to brush yourself off. And it's okay to start over, and it's okay to keep going. Because a lot of people think that when you mess up, and when you go through something, and when you fail, because listen, failure is always on your road to success. And always. A lot of people don't know that. And there was a point for me where I would get crushed when I did not succeed at something at my first try. And I'm the type of person, if it's not athletics, I will try it. Yeah, because I'm not athletic at all. But if it doesn't have anything to do with athletics, I will try it. And I would get so, defeated when I didn't succeed at something at the first try. And I'm just like, I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Mm-mm. It's okay to fall down, but the thing about falling down is that you still have a choice. There we go. You have a choice to get back up. You may be bent, but you're not broken. So, keep going and keep loving yourself through your mistakes. Even if others are not portraying that love, keep loving yourself through those mistakes, because making mistakes, it's a part of life, and it's okay. It's okay that you fell down. It's okay that you failed the test. It's okay that you didn't do what you thought that you could do. It's okay. Keep loving yourself through your process. And I think that's very imperative.
And you say we are bent, but we're not falling. Is that what you said, right?
Bent but not broken. Mm-hmm.
Bent but not broken. And that took me back to the palm tree. I love watching the rain, and even when there's a hurricane or whatever, I like being outside watching it. And I'm not going to tell the entire story about my experience with the rain that's coming in my second book. But if you ever notice, palm trees, sometimes the storm is so high, the wind is so hard in the palm trees, but they will shake and move, and sometimes they bend all the way to the ground.
Yeah.
But what happened? You'll see them rise back up again. And that is the way I look at myself sometimes. And believe me, there was a time when I did not love myself. No. There was a time when I didn't love some things about me. And it doesn't matter. It could be you don't like the way you look. You don't love the way you look. It could be you don't love the experience that you have had. It could be you just don't love the way you're living.
Yeah.
And self-love is on so many different levels.
Yeah.
But I kept telling myself, I'm like this palm tree. I might get up today, like this morning, and feel defeated. But I'm not broken. I'm going to get up.
Definitely.
That was powerful, Britannia. Mm-hmm. It was very powerful. Don't have me start crying. Mm-hmm. I'm getting old, and the older I get, which I'm Which I am so happy to be alive and I'm so happy to be aging. I don't know, I said that to my coworker the other day. When I was getting in my 30s, I'm like, oh, I'm getting old, but now I'm hitting the mid 40s and I'm like, oh, can't wait for the next birthday. But the older I get, the more sensitive or emotional I become. So don't have me crying this morning. But now that we have talked about self-love, share with us share with us how can we achieve self-love for those who are listening and is struggling finding the place to love themselves. How can that be achieved?
I mentioned this before, and I'm just going to reiterate it. Find out who you are. You know, it's okay to go out with other people, but take yourself out. Take yourself out on a date. There we go. Take yourself out. Create a routine to foster that love, because sometimes when we don't feel it from other people, we think it don't exist, but you can give it to yourself. And we both are apostolics, and we both are believers.
Mhm.
So when you embrace the love of God and when you embrace the love of Jesus, then it will be so easy for you to understand you and understand how to start loving you. So it may sound cliche, but start viewing yourself as how God views you. And when you start doing that and you start realizing that he said that you are the head and not the tail, and he said that you were fearfully and wonderfully made, no matter what shade you are. Let me just take a minute. Black girl magic. Let me just take a minute to do that. But no matter what shade you are, no matter where you are in life, just try to remember that your current situation is not your final destination. And as I said, it's a process.
It is.
And one day you're gonna wake up and you're gonna look yourself in the mirror and you're going to say, how could I not love her? How could I not love him? How come I was not so fascinated? And how come I didn't realize how amazing this person is? And this is you talking to you.
Mhm.
And I too, I went through a season of my, and I think I didn't say this, but I think I need to. I did go through a season of my life where I started doubting and not embracing who I am and who I know I was created to be. And so it was a constant back and forth with myself, with different well, let me not, I'm not bipolar, y'all, but with different personalities, and going through different, ways of dressing and ways of doing things. And I really had to get to that place where I realized that I'm embracing who I am, the uncensored and the uncut version of myself. And I'm working on that girl. I'm working on that person. So I think it's very important to embrace who you are,
Mhm.
embrace who you were created to be, and love on that, love on that person, because she deserves it and he deserves it. And I think one more thing, I'm so sorry, but one thing is that when we don't think that we deserve love, we're going to withhold it from ourselves.
Right.
So begin to realize that you are deserving of your love. Begin to realize that before your kids can feel the love that you want to give them, you first have to be content. Mom has to be content with mom. And it's sad, but I see a lot of broken people and broken adults. I'm an adult. Can you believe that?
Yes. I remember Little Britannia. 5 years ago, you were 14.
14 years old. Oh my gosh. But we see so many broken people and broken adults who are trying to lead children, and they're growing up to be broken adults too. So for the sake of you and for the sake of others around you, start to embrace you and embrace your journey, embrace yourself. Start writing to yourself. I strongly encourage people to keep a journal. You know, whenever you're feeling down, you know, write it out. And if you don't feel like writing it out, go somewhere and just speak it out, you know, because when you bottle those things in, after a while, when someone shakes it, it's going to come out. It's going to overflow like a Pepsi. If you continuously shake it, it's going to come out. So let it out, you know, write it, and read it back to yourself, you know, continuously. I can't take my phone up, but I do have some of them right here with me. I keep sticky notes and I stick them all over my room. Like they're everywhere. Like my mom thinks I'm crazy, but I keep them all over. I write all over my glass. And these are some of the things that helped me to be okay with me. All over my mirror is written, never settle, you know. Today will be the greatest day of your life. Today I'm on a purpose. You know, I continuously wrote to myself and spoke into myself. Speak life into yourself. If no one else is speaking life into you, begin to do that for yourself. Wake up in the morning, create a morning routine for an unbreakable day. And I think when you do that over and over and over again, you'll begin to start loving yourself. So that's it.
Awesome. And you spoke about your sticky notes, and I know you should have read my book.
Yeah.
You have the sticky notes, and I have the mirror. And
The
if you
mirror.
remember in my book, I spoke about talking to the mirror, and that's just the exact way how I phrase it. Not everybody know you can't talk to the mirror. I'm talking to the reflection in the mirror. So everywhere I go, and you can see me driving down the highway, and what's down? Visor is down, because every so often
you're talking to yourself.
I look up in the mirror and I'm speaking to myself. Around my house, there's mirrors everywhere. If you walk into my office, I have mirrors. So when I'm sitting at my computer, I'm looking directly in one of my mirrors. And if I turn to the side, I'm looking directly into another mirror. Because that's a constant reminder to me of where I've been, the path I have traveled, and the path that I will continue to travel. It's a constant reminder. When I look in the mirror, I'm seeing my three selves. And as Britannia stated, she's not bipolar, and I'm not bipolar. But I'm looking and I'm speaking into my, my three selves. I'm looking on the past where I'm coming from, because I never ever forget my past. I don't want to forget it. And I'm looking at where I am in the future, and I'm looking into the future of where the path I'm taking. So you have your sticky notes, and I have my mirror. But when you think about it, it's the same concept.
Yeah.
And we're getting the same end result. So even though my strategic plan may not be the same as whoever is going to be watching that video, but it works. Their plan will work just the same.
Yeah.
And another thing about achieving self-love I want to add, and it pops in if you saw me looking at my phone, a thought came to my mind, so I had to text it to myself so I don't forget. Remember, the age is climbing, so when we start to love ourselves, we will never entertain the feeling of not being good enough.
That's it right there.
Yes,
ma'am.
And I have to remind myself this. Even Thursday, I was on the job. I had to remind myself this. It doesn't matter how the next person view you and your characteristics.
Yep.
We will never entertain that feeling of not being good enough.
Yes, ma'am.
Never.
Never.
I'm in a group on Facebook, and it's called Natural Hair, I think it is. And a question was asked. They said, ladies who are over 40, giving advice to our young ladies 30 and below, something like that. And I'm reading on all these comments, and that came to my mind as well. So I told the ladies, never entertain the feeling of not being good enough. So if your employer really don't view you good enough for even a promotion, don't get defeated.
That's right.
If your friends don't view you good enough to be in their clique,
Mm-hmm.
don't get defeated. If
Mm-hmm.
your church don't view you good enough to participate, to have you doing things, don't feel defeated.
Mm-hmm.
If your parents don't view you good enough,
Mm-hmm.
because we do have some parents, God forbid, who just
Mm-hmm.
think we're not, kids are not good enough.
Yeah.
If they don't view you that you're good enough
Mm-hmm.
for them to be proud of you, don't feel defeated.
That's right.
Any organization that you are a part of, and if they overlook you because they don't think you're good enough, don't become defeated.
That's right. And
And if you have a boyfriend, because I'm not going to sit here and think folks don't date.
mm-hmm.
And if he or she think that you're not good enough, don't become defeated. If your
Mm-hmm.
husband or wife, I've been there and my husband didn't think I was good enough. And yes, I was almost at that point where, man, I must not be good enough. But I couldn't entertain that
Yep.
because how are we going to stop ourselves from being defeated? We cannot entertain that feeling that we're not good enough.
And Sister Bet, when bring the Sister Bet,
It's
when
fine.
you learn how to appreciate yourself, and when you learn how to love yourself and embrace you, all the right people will start flowing in.
Mm-hmm.
When you know how to treat yourself, people around you will have no choice but to treat you at that standard that you hold yourself.
And that is why when all these folks who think that you're not good enough, and when they see that still you are rising,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
what happens?
They gonna have to come right up there and respect you.
Either they get on the train that you're on,
Mm-hmm.
or they just keep separating themselves.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
But what happens? We have to pave that path, though.
Yeah.
We cannot be defeated.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I got onto that.
True though. Yeah.
And
Sometimes
another
you
thing,
gotta love yourself enough to let people go.
mhm.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I had on my note right here, that when we love ourselves, we avoid the toxic and we let go of all toxic
Yes, ma'am.
people.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And we have to take that time out to do our self-check-in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you love yourself, you have to do that self-check-in. You have to check in with
Mm-hmm.
yourself to make sure that everything you're doing makes you as an individual happy.
Mm-hmm. And I when you said that, I was just thinking about it. When you love yourself, you have to be honest with yourself
Mm-hmm.
and find out if you're that toxic person and what you can do to change whatever it is that's not right going on here. Because when you love yourself, you're honest with yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
you will check right here and see what's going on up in there. So I think it's very important for us to love ourselves enough to want change for ourselves.
And I believe you mentioned it before, and we can't leave out the greatest factor of all
Mm-hmm.
is Christ happy with us. Because if I
Definitely.
know He's happy with me,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
we got it.
Yep. That's it. Yes, ma'am.
And the last point I had was when we love ourselves, we are brave enough to accept who we are during failure as much as we accept who we are during our success.
Amen. I agree.
So, Sister Britannia, such a great conversation.
I loved
And
it. Thank you so much for having me.
yes, but is there anything else you would like to share? And I ask this question to just about all my guests because sometimes I'm sitting here and I'm having a conversation with you, and I can, probably get off topic. or probably get into sharing self or professional disclosure and forgot to ask you something that you would like to bring to the forefront. Is there anything that I forgot to ask that you would like to say to our viewers?
No, just love, respect yourself. That's about it.
Okay, it was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, man.
And to all our viewers, please don't just listen, but apply it. If there's an area lacking in your life and this can contribute in a positive way, please apply it. And if you know someone who's struggling, trying to find themselves, trying to love themselves, share this video with them. And also, don't forget to get a copy of my book and how I started loving myself. And it might be a blessing to you or to another young person. And the title of the book is Moving Forward, You Like Me Can Overcome, and it can be found in Amazon. Until next week, this has been Moving Forward Talk with Diana. And thank you again so very much, Sister Britannia, for taking time out to share your view and self-love.
Thank you.